What happened to your jersey, Johnny boy? No, yeah. We're sorted. Yeah. Thanks, Betty, that's fine. Okay, morning everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you all here this morning on behalf of Attractor, Ed and Murray Law, and we look forward to spending the time together during the ceremony where we're going to all remember and pay tribute to Peter and the life that he lived. So firstly, I'd like to welcome everyone who's here in person. Lots of familiar faces, family, old loyal friends, and then some new friends as well, and especially those who over the last 5 months have meant so much to Peter and done so much for Peter while he's been here in South Africa. So thank you to each and every one of you for coming. And then to all of those who are joining us online today. This is a new way of doing things, I guess, all of this online stuff. But I think actually we're really lucky that we can use technology to link up family and friends from all around the world. So we're really pleased that everyone can join us. I think in these times, these difficult times, family and friends pull together for each other. And I think it really makes a huge difference. So we're really lucky. We've got people joining us from England, from Ireland, and even as far flung as Brazil. Thank you, Pat. So even as far flung as Brazil. So thank you to everyone who's joining online. And I'd like to make a particular mention to Ed, Nikki, Annie, John, and Florence, who I'm sure would love to have been here today in person. And we wish you could have been here, and we're all thinking of you in these difficult times. We've done everything that we can to try and make sure that this live stream works. So I've got everything crossed, all fingers, all toes, and I'd like to ask you all to do the same, please. Because we have lots of curveballs that could be thrown at us. The internet connection, unplanned power outages, which I think to people in England are a bit of an unknown, but here it's quite a regular occurrence, so it's a real concern for us. Anyway, so we hope it all works. On the people who are joining online, there is what I'm calling a chat box function. And we do have Kevin and his technician here as well on standby, so if you're battling with anything on the live stream, please feel free to post a message and we can see what we can do to try and sort it out. I'd prefer to actually almost pause the ceremony to try and resolve these issues, because we want the experience to be as good as possible for those who are joining online. So please do let us know. The ceremony this morning that we're going to go through is what we here in South Africa would call a memorial. It's an opportunity for all of us to remember and pay tribute to Peter's wonderful life. I understand that it's perhaps a little different to how things are sometimes done in the UK, but really the essence of it all is that we would like to share memories and take some time to celebrate Peter and everything he was and still is to each one of us. I've already received a number of messages from people which we'll play later through the system that we have here. But again, to those who are online, if there are any messages or notes that you would like to share, please go ahead and do that on that chat box function as well. I'll try and collect those messages later if possible, if I'm not too technologically challenged. And we'll try and read them out as well. So please, we'd like to try and involve you guys as much as possible. We do have an order of service that we're going to run through, and for those of you here in person, I hope you've each got one. And the first activity on that is we would like to ask William, Johnny, and Patrick to come forward and to present a poem from David Harkin titled "He Is Gone." Guys, do you want to come forward? Don't let's come here, boy. Okay, it's ready.
He Is Gone by David Hawkins.
You can shed tears that he is gone, or you can smile because he lived. You can close your eyes and pray that he'll come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that he has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see him, or you can be full of the love that you shared.
You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him and only that he is gone, or you can cherish his memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what he would want. Smile, open your eyes, love and go on.
Thanks, boys. Well done. Next, we're going to go through a few tributes and thanks, and I'd like to ask Marie-Laure to come up. She's prepared a few words.
Thanks so much, Simon, and thank you all for being here this morning. As you know, the last few months have been a bumpy road, and the people sitting with us here or joining us live this morning have helped to make that a little smoother. Thank you for all your love, kindness and support, not only this week, but over the last few months. Sorry, I'm sounding a bit teary. We are so lucky that Dad was able to spend his last days with us here. Those are memories we will treasure forever. I'm going to give you a little overview of Dad's life, and we'll then do a few thank yous. Hopefully I'll need it through without needing one of my super subs who are here. Peter Hugh was the firstborn son to Kathleen and Henry Rigg. He was born in Stockton-on-Tees on Sunday the 19th of November, 1944. This made him a wartime baby, as his father was busy fighting in World War II at the time. He has two brothers, Andrew and Ian, and a sister, Celia. Dad didn't ever forget his siblings. I was called Sis by him on a number of occasions in the past few months, and he would often call your names. Andy, Celia, Ian. And the carers who are here today will justify that was completely true. Thank you for joining us online today. I know you miss your regular phone call catch-ups with your brother and would have loved to be able to celebrate your big brother's life with us in person today. Childhood memories for the Rigg clan were full of fun and mischief. Uncle Ian tells me that Dad's sense of humour developed from an early age, encouraged by their father. Stories such as Dad being told he'd be able to catch a rabbit if he put salt on their tails, so Dad would spend hours crawling around trying to do exactly that, thus causing much amusement for everyone else during their family holidays, which were often spent in a caravan on a farm. There was another story of a skinny dipping session in a river on a visit to Tatty Emma. Tatty is northern speak for auntie, for those of you who weren't able to follow what I was saying there. The ladies had gone for a walk, so the boys decided it would be fun to take off their clothes and mess about in the river. There was much consternation when the ladies returned too quickly, and the boys had to hide out in the bushes until it was safe for them to retrieve their clothes and dignity. I personally fondly remember our annual Christmas trips to Stockton to the entire Rigg family, the trips to the ice skating rink, and the obligatory Christmas pantomime. I remember often being particularly jealous because it was my cousin Jennifer and my brother Ed's birthdays during this time, and they would always get called up onto the stage to have happy birthday sung to them. Dad loved taking us to visit his family up north and all the festivities that went with it, including the panto, where he would get very animated, shouting, "He's behind you!" and "Oh, no, he didn't," etc. Dad went to the local grammar school and then studied engineering at Sheffield University. I'm told that whilst he was a student, Dad was arrested, along with a number of other students, for a student prank including some detergent and the city centre water fountain. Luckily for Dad, this was kept fairly quiet, no charges were laid, and he went on to finish his degree with his goody two-shoes image still intact. Shortly after graduating, he got a job with GEC, and he remained with this company for his entire career. It was on a work trip to Belfast that he met a young lady called Attractor. Mum and Dad got married. Mum and Dad got married on April the 13th, 1970, and celebrated their 51st wedding anniversary earlier this year. Seriously impressive achievement. At one point, there was a slight possibility that their union would be cut short. When I was about 18 years old, Mum decided it was finally time for us to get a puppy. Dad was absolutely adamant there was no way he was going to have a dog in his house. There was quite a standoff, and eventually Dad gave Mum an ultimatum. It was to either be him or the puppy. So the next day, the puppy, Miss Woofington, arrived. And Dad remained under the same roof. His previously unknown love of dogs was ignited, and Woof and Buster became his favourite children, who were spoiled beyond words. They were blessed, Well, I think they were blessed anyway with 2 children, Ed and myself. It's a bit, big-headed to say that we're blessed to have me here. Anyway, they now have 6 grandchildren, Annie, John and Florence, and William, Johnny and Patrick. Dad's grandchildren have brought him so much joy over the past 11 years. He absolutely adored all of his grandchildren and was an absolutely unbelievable pa. He particularly loved sitting down to read with them, singing nursery rhymes. Incy Wincy with all the actions was a firm favourite, and pushing them far too high on the swings over there to hear their squeals of delight and terror. He also loved taking them on outings for treats and train rides when he was still able to drive. Dad actually came to stay with me here just after we'd moved into our new home. I was heavily pregnant with Johnny, and Simon was going to a conference in Japan for a few weeks. I was anxious to stay here by myself, so Dad flew down from the UK to keep me company. It was during this visit that Dad and William became like celebrities at a local haunt, Piggly Wiggly. Dad would take Will every Friday morning for milkshakes and an enormous slice of lemon meringue pie. The waitresses would greet them both by name and ask them if they wanted their usual. Our little family have so many amazing memories of holidays we have been lucky enough to share together. Many of these memories you will see on the pictures on the slideshow this morning. It's been really therapeutic this week, going through all these photos and remembering the strong man that Dad was. Before his health started to fail him. Our boys have absolutely loved having Pa here with us and being able to give him the best last few months we could. I know they have gained so much kindness and compassion that will stay with them forever. Dad's career took him all over the world, to places such as China, India, America, North and South Korea, and also here in South Africa. On our drives to Kruger National Park, Dad would always point out the power stations that he had worked at along the route, and also the hotels or bed and breakfasts he would stay at. On these trips, I remember Ed and I writing airmail letters to keep Dad up to date with news from home. We would eagerly await his replies, some of which could take up to 2 or 3 weeks to arrive. No email, Skype, WhatsApp video calls that we know so well today. We would also have regular Sunday telephone calls. With such a time delay, there wouldn't actually be too much conversation. Just lots of talking over each other and then giggling when you couldn't hear what the other person was saying. I remember Dad arriving back from these far-flung places and the excitement Ed and I felt as we raced down the platform at Rugby Station to welcome him home. There was always much excitement to see the photographs of where Dad had been to and to see what goodies he'd brought home for us. Dad's career at GEC spanned almost 25 years, and how lucky he was to have spent the last 21 years retired. Dad loved steam trains and stamps. Many weekends were spent on the side of the train tracks taking photos and chatting with other enthusiasts. He was a respected member of this community and had a number of his photographs published. The watermark on your programme today is an example of one of these published images. We've also had a number of trips with Dad to the Nchanga Choo Choo here in South Africa, and it was amazing to see Dad come alive with the sound, smell, and soot that the steam trains always delivered. His stamp collection was described as one of the best, most logically put together collections they had seen at the auction house in some years. For example, Dad would think creatively and get his stamps stamped in places to suit whatever that particular stamp was celebrating. For example, our personal favourite of this is getting the Crufts Dog Show stamps stamped in a place in the UK called Barking. Yeah. The vast amount of stamp albums were at times a hotly contested topic of conversation in our home, and Dad did express some concern about where these albums were once he had arrived here with us. Once Dad had retired, he got into unearthing our family history. He took great pride in this and managed to take the family tree all the way back to around 1726. His family was extremely important to him, and in the last few months he would often talk about going home. I would try to explain to him that he was at home, but he would insist I was wrong, and he wanted to go to 46 Fairfield Road, his childhood home in Stockton that his parents had built. On one particular afternoon, not long ago, he was very insistent, so I told him I would see what I could do. I tried to explain that it was quite a long way away, and I didn't think it would be possible for us to go there on that particular day. I eventually got out my telephone and typed the address into Google Maps. 46 Fairfield Road is 14,107 kilometres, or 8,765 miles away from us here at 25 Saxony Avenue. According to Google Maps, this would take 7 days and 15 hours to drive, include a ferry trip, crossing through multiple countries, and obviously not a particularly good idea during these COVID times. He did agree with me after that it was perhaps a little too far to head to on that day, and we had some fun looking at the Google Street View images and reminiscing about his time and childhood memories from there. Dad had a wicked sense of humour, which didn't ever fail him. Many of our friends still recall Dad's opening line of his father of the bride's speech at our wedding whenever his name is mentioned. For those of you not present that day, Dad opened his speech with a very straight face with the following line. Being asked to make this speech is a bit like being asked to sleep with the Queen. It's a great honour, but nobody really wants to do it. Only last week, I was trying to get Dad to take his painkillers, and he told me there wasn't a cat in hell's chance I'm going to take those things. And most afternoons, Mum and the carers would take Dad for a drive to Howick or somewhere local here. And when they got back, I'd ask Dad how his drive was. And most afternoons, he would say to me, it was fine, but the driver was a bit too much like Paddy Hopkirk for my liking. And for those of you that don't know, Paddy Hopkirk is a famous rally driver from Northern Ireland. This sense of humour brought welcome relief during some of these trying times. Since Dad's accident in April 2018, his health has slowly deteriorated. Sorry, this bit's going to be hard. This unfortunately changed the projection of Dad's life completely and made life pretty hard for both him and Mum. I'd just like to pay tribute to Mum at this stage too. Mum, thank you for loving Dad and caring for him as you have for over 50 years, but particularly over the past 3.5 years. You have been unwavering in your attempts to give Dad the best quality of life you possibly could, and I think all of us are in absolute awe of your determination and unfaltering drive to do this. As a family, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to the Select Care team, Susan, Sheila, sisters Jennifer, Di and Penny, and our carers who have cared for Dad over the past 5 months. Noni, Tandeka and Nonjabula have lived in our home, for 24 hours a day. They've become part of our family, and we will be eternally grateful that they made it possible for us to care for Dad here. Caring for Dad over the past few months has been very demanding, some would say a little wild at times, and these ladies always looked after Dad with such love, dignity and understanding. Noni and I'd just like to speak briefly about each of the carers. Unfortunately, Noni couldn't be here. Noni met us at Pietermaritzburg Airport on the day Mum and Dad arrived. Her warm smile and gentle way with Dad made the transition here so much easier for both Mum and Dad. Thank you, Noni, for caring for Dad. We were all very sad when you started a new job in November. Nonjabulo joined us in November and has been the most amazing replacement for Noni. Thank you for your kind and gentle way and for caring for Dad in the last few weeks of his life. Tandeka has been caring for Dad from soon after he arrived with us and was here last Sunday morning when he slipped away. We'll miss your sense of humour, cheeky laugh and generous spirit. Thank you for caring for Dad and loving him as you did. Although not an official carer, Gogo Daisy is a natural nurturer and has cared for us all so much over the past few months. I feel it's also fitting to include her in these thank yous. Daisy and I do battle a little with our English and Zulu communication, so I'm going to say what I'd like to say, and then I've organised for a Zulu translation so Daisy can understand exactly what I'm saying. Daisy, thank you for loving Pa as your own. You have gone beyond the call of duty on so many levels every day over the last 5 months. Whenever we needed help with Dad, Daisy would be there doing whatever needed to be done. She would go and check on Dad every morning and every night without fail. Your love for Dad was clear, and we know your heart is so also. Thank you so much for all you have done. Hia bonga gakulu gogo Daisy. Have you got that voice now? Thank you.
Siyabonga gogo Daisy ukuthi umthando umkhulu, umthanda ngathi igazi lakho. Sibonga ukuthi ukhonile uyinikezela kule nyanga edlule eyinhlanu wenze ngaphezulu kwalokho bekumele uthi yakwenza. Sibonga ukuthi besazi ukuthi noma isekuseni noma isebusuku wena ubukhona ukuthi uhambe uyombheka umkhulu wenze show ukuthi yonke into ayidingayo ube nesiqiniseko ukuthi yonke into ayidingayo ilungisiwe i-right and naye uhlele kahle. Sibonga nje ukuthi imisebenzi yakhe ibibonakala and nawe besikubona ukuthi usuzenzela ngothando. And siyazi ukuthi nje bese sishila umkhulu neyakhe inhliziyo ibhlungu kakhulu. Silithokozela usizo lakho, sibonga kakhulu. Siyabonga gogo Daisy ukuthi umthando umkhulu, umthanda ngathi igazi.
Thank you. There's one more person I need to include in my thank yous. I don't know if I can do this one actually. He's heard this tribute about 100 times this week, but not this section. Simon has seen it all this year, and this has not always been pretty. He's wiped the tears, poured lots of wine, and been my absolute rock on some really low days. Thank you for always welcoming my parents into our home so unconditionally, but particularly over the last 5 months. I think to have your mother-in-law, father-in-law who suffers from dementia, and a 24-hour carer in your home takes an exceptionally special person, and I will forever be grateful that I have you by my side. I think the estrogen levels in our home have been a little challenging at times, but Simon has never been anything other than 100% supportive of our desire to care for Dad at home. Thank you for supporting me and Mum and Dad throughout this journey. There is no way I could ever adequately put into words the love, gratitude, and deep respect I have for you. Thank you for running this race with me. If you don't know, we don't really walk in this house. We run everywhere. Anyway, I'm almost done, so thank you for bearing with me. At about this time each year, I would ask Dad what he wanted for his birthday, which has just passed, or for Christmas. Dad's answer, which was always the same, was very simple. An easy life, and for you and your brother to stop bickering. Yeah, at the time I found this hugely frustrating, as all I wanted him to do was to tell me something I could go and buy easily, some aftershave, a jumper or a tie, a book or a CD. Now, at the grand old age of 40, I realise exactly what he was speaking about and can relate so easily, and probably would really like the same for Christmas this year if anyone's listening. We are going to raise a toast at lunch just now to Dad, and hope you will do the same wherever you are. Dad, we are so sad you have left us here, yet so relieved you are finally resting peacefully. We miss you so much, but treasure the memories of a strong man and a life well lived. I know wherever Dad is, he's smiling down on us and enjoying the easy life he always wished for.
Well done, Marilyn. We've got a few messages and tributes that have been sent in, and I think Kevin's going to play those messages for us now.
Hi, this is Ed, Peter's son. As you might imagine, this is a very challenging time for me, so please bear with me if I pause at times. Dad was born in 1944 to Harry and Kath. He enjoyed a happy childhood in Stockton-upon-Tees, growing up with his brothers Ian and Andy and his sister Celia, who will all miss Dad hugely. I'll always be grateful for Dad. He taught me so many things. Many of these were practical, but the things that I appreciate most are the very simple values that he lived his life by and that he instilled in me. Values such as respect, loyalty, compassion, and honesty. As a child, some of my most treasured memories are holidays to Wales and trips to see Gran, which usually involved the seaside, trains and ice creams, which satisfies Dad's sweet tooth. He, along with Mum, worked hard throughout mine and Marilyn's childhood to provide us with so many opportunities, both educationally and socially. He had many adventures around the world with his work and was highly regarded within GEC, where he oversaw huge turbine installs and tests globally. He often shares stories of his travels, many very humorous, such as his alarm at finding a snake coiled around his site toilet and being offered a bizarre selection of animals to eat in foreign restaurants. Dad's work ethic is something that he's passed on to me and that I encourage in our 3 children on a daily basis. Our children love Pa dearly. His gentle nature, daft sense of humour and love of a game meant that a visit from Pa was always keenly anticipated. John and Dad loved to play and watch rugby together, and he loved to sit with Pa and Nata, tell jokes and play board games. Florence loved to cuddle and often had a Pa dressing up and playing parts in her imaginary games. They shared a very special bond. As a family, we enjoyed many dog walks together with Pa and both Wolf and Buster, who Dad looked after just as well as he looked after us, if not better. Dad's passion was always steam railways and photography. We feel blessed to have some photographs that he took during many happy hours spent lineside admiring engines. When John was less than a week old, we went on a steam train journey with Dad, Nicky, Annie and John, and that is a memory that Annie treasures. A few years later, when Mary-Law and her boys were in the UK, we were lucky enough to go on a steam-powered merry-go-round with Dad and all his grandchildren, a happy occasion for him and us, enjoying one of his passions together. I'm going to miss Dad so much and wish that I could have been with him at the end when he passed away, but I'm so grateful that as a family team we managed to get Dad out to South Africa so that his last days were surrounded by family and love. Rest easy, Pa. Love you.
This is Nikki, Peter's daughter-in-law, with a few little memories of Peter. I will always be grateful for how he welcomed me into the Rigg family. He was a kind, gentle and generous man. Quiet in nature, but at supper, with a glass of red wine in hand, he would regale us with numerous stories, often very funny, of his trips around the world. He was a very intelligent and knowledgeable man and had many life experiences to share with us all. He was a wonderful grandfather, and the biggest smile on his face was always seen when the children were around. He never visited here without some sneaky chocolate in his bag, and the children loved to sit and to read and play with him. This Christmas, we will miss his amazing array of Christmas jumpers, which was only matched by his fabulous collection of novelty ties, a thing he had in common with his brother Ian. We're truly grateful for our time with you, Peter, and we will miss you dearly.
This is Annie. Pa always loved being outside, and being on a dog walk made it even better. I always remember when John was only a few weeks old and we went on a steam train with him. He was always so kind to us and would often bring us gifts when he came to stay.
Hello, this is John speaking. With my memories of Pa. Pa was loving. Pa was kind. Pa was gentle. Pa loved dogs. I remember when Pa went to Kingston Lacey with us, with loving memory of Pa. This is Florence. Pa loved to walk dogs. He laughed with me. He had fun with me.
Hello. I'm Lizzie and I'm Peter's cousin, and I have a few memories to share with you. So my earliest memories of my cousin Peter were at Christmas time at number 46, which was his parents' home in Stockton. And we would travel a long distance from London, and coming from a small quiet family near London, I would always be hit by the buzz of the life in the north and the hectic life of the Rigg family. Peter, 11 years my senior, would rescue me a bit and sit me on his knee and speak in calm adult tones and suffer my proddings and pokings and giggling, and as a small girl suffer all that with good grace. I was never quite sure actually even if he was a cousin or if he was actually an uncle. The spark and fun seemed to come from his younger siblings, but Peter himself was not above the odd bit of skullduggery. My grandmother, our grandmother, who lived near the Riggs and with whom we stayed on our annual visits, would produce cornflakes for breakfast, and Peter would come round for breakfast. And the cornflakes tasted rather suspiciously rubbery. They had this texture. And so Peter put my brother Jeff, who was 7 years older than me, up to marking the packet, the cornflake packet, with a cross, just to see if the same packet was there the following year when we visited. And it was. But I remember another plot, which I think was Ian's idea, which was to swap the mini child-sized cutlery that was set out for me, when I must have been about 4 or 5, with his adult cutlery, which seemed enormous to me. So we were sat at the dinner table, him with this baby cutlery and me with this giant knife and fork. And I remember struggling with the enormity of that, and Ian helping me and giggling, and Peter behaving with great grace and dignity with the baby eating irons that he had put by his place. Occasionally Peter would come to stay with our family in London's suburbia, and as I understand it, he used to come down when life got a bit stressful and he needed to get away from it all, and my mum reckoned he came, for the quietness and to for her listening ear, which she always provided. And I would plague him with questions and chatter, and on one occasion I remember he took me to the Science Museum and we walked around, and I must have been about maybe 10 or 11. He insisted on spending a lot of time in the engineering department, which is no surprise, and kept talking about turbines. Everything seemed to come back to the turbine. And I had no idea what he was talking about. And I thought I must be very ignorant. So I didn't. I just quietly walked by his side and watched. And I think I may have figured out by the end just about what a turbine was. But I don't think he ever realised that I really had no idea. He always kept in close touch with my parents, particularly visiting my mum after my dad died. And he made some special trips when she was very poorly towards the end of her life. And he would come and sit by her bed, just sit quietly when she was unable to speak much. And then when my brother unexpectedly became ill with cancer and we looked after him at our home, Peter would make the hour's journey from Stratford or near Stratford to visit quite regularly. And sometimes he'd come with a tractor who was equally kind. And they were with us on the last day before Jeff died, which was a very hard time for everyone because Jeff was quite unresponsive and his physical appearance showed deterioration. But we were very grateful for his quiet, faithful care at this time. So those are just a few memories I have of my cousin Peter. Thank you.
Hi, this is Ed, Peter's son. As you might imagine, this is a very challenging time for me, so please bear with me if I pause at times.
Well, I think those
Dad
messages
was
are very
born in
special. Thanks again for
1944
those
to
people who sent
Harry
them
and
through.
Kath.
I think it adds
He
a
enjoyed a
different
happy
value
childhood
to
in
the
Stockton
ceremony
upon
that we're having today. We're now just going to take a break for a few minutes and just have some quiet time for reflection and prayer. And if I could just mention one more time, please, if anyone during this time wants to pop any more messages on the chat group, any memories that you would like me to read out after this perhaps, please feel free to do so now. Thanks. I can just imagine Peter bolting that out of Twickenham. I've tried to link up on my phone to the live feed to get the messages, and I hope I've got them all. Just 1 second. I need some help with pronunciation of names. So there's a few Irish names here, so my apologies if I can't pronounce them right. Anyway, thank you for sending the messages through. So firstly, hello from Sean, Pam, Sorsha I can get, and I'm really sorry. Kiva. Kiva and Leonard in Ireland, keeping you all in our thoughts and prayers, sending you much love and support. Next message. Hello everyone. Robin Haley Cooknell here from Milton Keynes, UK. It has been so nice to be able to listen into the fantastic memorial. Peter would have been very proud, thinking of you all. Hello from Andy and Margaret. Hope all goes to plan, thinking of you with love. And then sending all our love and best wishes from Terry, Paddy. You have to help me attract her. Is it Bronner? Broner. And Finn. And Finn from Lochmuck. Beautiful service. Thanks everyone, and apologies. Oh, there's more coming through. Hello ML, Attractor, Simon family. We're sending much love to all from Brazil. We remember Peter fondly as a man who was a gentleman, kind, with good humour, always interested in chatting. Beautiful service. That's from Claire Morris. From Jenny Rigg. Like my cousin, I have strong memories of those Christmases at Nan's, and Ed and I having birthdays at the same time was special. Uncle Peter often felt like he was much more responsible and grown up than my dad Andy and Uncle Ian. But that impish sense of humour all three and Auntie Celia shared was never far away. We'll keep it running, and if there's more messages that come through, we can always come back to them at the end a little bit later. But thank you for those people who've sent them through. Attractor said earlier that perhaps if there's anyone here who would like to share any memories, to please feel free. And there's no pressure as well if you don't want to, but to share any memories if there is anyone who would like to. Mum, I can see you. You need to come up here so that the people can hear you.
Still the speech at your wedding. That was the best.
Okay. All right. So, as I start the closing, I hope you won't mind indulging me a little as I perhaps share a few of my own memories of Peter. Like Nikki, I too found Peter to be the most welcoming person. Especially when I rocked up at his home in England as a largely unknown South African ruffian. He couldn't have been more accepting and welcoming to me. Such a calm, measured, and intelligent man with the most wickedly dry sense of humour, which I think we've heard coming out in everyone's speeches and tributes and memories. I consider myself really lucky to have shared the memories I have with him over the past 15 years or so. And there's a few particular highlights that I would just quickly like to share with you. So firstly, my constant sparring with him about the English and South African cricket teams. Unfortunately, he's had a lot more ammunition than I have in recent times, which has been a problem for me. And then a real classic memory is watching, and there's a few of you here today who were part of it as well, and Ed watching online, was watching Peter reel in a 25-kilogram kuta off the coast of Mozambique in 40-degree heat. I've never seen such determination in all my life. In typical Peter fashion, there were no fireworks and there was no animation from him whatsoever. He reeled that fish in, and that poor thing never had a chance. It turned out to be the biggest fish of the day. And again, in true Peter fashion, he very quietly and politely reminded us of that later in the evening while he was sipping on a castle lager. Then we are lucky to have had many trips to the Kruger National Park, which for those of our international guests is the biggest game park in South Africa. We're lucky to have had many trips there with him. And there's a couple of highlights from those trips. The one was the first time Peter spotted a lion. The first time he spotted it for himself. And you have to understand the context of Peter sitting in the back seat. He would always be very quiet, often long periods of not saying anything whatsoever. And on this particular occasion, suddenly out of nowhere, he jumped up. He nearly leapt out of the window of the car with such excitement and shouted, "Lion!" I nearly drove off the road, and it was so out of character, but it was a wonderful spot, and he was really chuffed. Then another time, we had just spotted a leopard. I say we. And it became, I think he decided to play on Murray-Law's competitive side, shall we say. And he claimed that he had seen the leopard first. And this sent Murray-Law into a complete spin, because she, of course, thought she had seen the leopard first. And she couldn't hold back, but kept on telling him. And I just glanced in the rearview mirror, and I'll never forget seeing the little twinkle in Peter's eye and the smile on his face. And that, again, was his sense of humor. He knew exactly what he was doing. And then, how could I forget the day that I plucked up the courage to ask Peter for his daughter's hand in marriage? As anyone does, I guess. I approached him with a knot in my stomach and sweaty palms, and I awkwardly managed to bumble out something like, "I'd like to please marry Law." And I'm sure most of you will remember that Peter was never the quickest to respond to a question. He was always very calm, very measured, and those seconds of waiting were agonizing for me. And eventually he replied and said, "Are you sure?" And then followed it up with, "Do you know what you're getting yourself into?" And then lastly, a special memory that was sort of reaffirmed yesterday as well was my first ever train spotting expedition I went on with Peter. I was the driver and Peter the photographer. And my job was to find the train, drive like a madman and get ahead of the train, position him in the best possible place so that he could get that $1 million shot. And I must say, it turned out to be a lot more fun than I actually expected. And what it did do is gave me a really good insight into one of his real life passions, which was steam trains and the rail, I guess. And I think we've heard that many times over today as well. Anyway, so thank you for allowing me to indulge a little bit and for an opportunity to share some of those memories that I have of Peter. Before we close the ceremony, I would like to pay tribute to two very special ladies here today. Firstly, to Murray-Law. You've been the most amazing daughter to your father, especially during the last 5 months. I'm just going to pause a second. Murray-Law, you've been the most amazing daughter to your father, especially during the last 5 months. You gave him everything you possibly could have while he was living with us here. And you did this while juggling the daily demands of your job and looking after your 4 boys, as you always say. You did this without hesitation, without a blink of an eye, and I know your dad loved having this time with you. I'm sure you'll never forget the chats you had with him, the smiles he gave you when he saw you, and the time he asked you just to stay a little longer. You're an incredibly strong woman, and we're all very lucky to have you. And I don't know how you managed to get through that speech. Secondly, and most importantly, to Attractor. Attractor, the last few years since Peter's accident have been incredibly tough on you. And I know Murray-Law has already paid tribute to you, but I hope you don't mind if I add to it. Your dedication and loyalty to Peter has been second to none, and your selflessness through the many, many daily sacrifices you have made is nothing short of incredible. We saw that on a day-to-day basis over the last 5 months. Peter was so lucky to have you by his side during the last 5 months, and I'm so glad you had that opportunity to do that, as you cared for and looked after his every need each day. I'll never forget the day he said to me about you. He said, "You know, Simon, I wouldn't still be here if it wasn't for that lady," he said to me as he pointed to you. Attractor, you've been absolutely amazing. And finally, in closing, I know it's been a long closing. At the start of the ceremony, the boys read the poem titled "He Has Gone." But I thought it was so apt a couple of nights ago when William said to me, "But Dad, I think the poem should be called He Has Not Gone." And I think this is so true, as Peter isn't gone. He will forever live on in our hearts and our minds. We had lunch yesterday at the train station in Hillcrest at Stoker's Arms after Peter's cremation ceremony. And as we walked out of the pub, there was a steam engine just preparing to put away from the station. It was one of those moments in life that you just can't make up. It was there in all its glory, the clouds of steam and the hissing. And we all paused for a few moments and took some photos before the engine chugged out of the station. For all of us, it was really moving, and I think it signified to us that Peter's journey is not finished, and he will always remain with us. And with that, we come to the end of our ceremony this morning. Thank you once again, everybody, for making the effort to be here. Very special friends and family who always come to the party at these times. We really, really do appreciate it. We all appreciate you. And for all of those people online, I hope the experience has been good. I hope you've managed to get the feed nicely, and thank you for the contributions again that you have made. We will continue with the feed for 15 or 20 minutes after the ceremony, just so that the slideshow that was playing earlier can continue playing. I think we've got over 200 photos of Peter with many of you, and I think it would be a nice time if you wanted to just sit quietly and reflect on the times and your memories with Peter. Absolutely. So sorry, for those online, we've Tandeka, one of Peter's carers, has just asked if she could sing. And she used to sing for Dad, and, for Peter, and he loved it. So Tandeka, yeah, thank you. Please come forward.
We would like to greet everyone, the family, our management, the friends, and the siblings for Peter. It's Tandega and Nonjabulo, the girls who were caring for him. Unfortunately, we will sing a Zulu song. We've just noticed that for the past few days we're here with Peter. He would love our singing. Once I sang for him and he would say, "Well done," and we'll make a clap. Yeah. Masimbonge, Masimbonge, oh nomsaganga, simuthande, simukhonze, imihla ngemihla. Hallelujah.
Dick and Anjabula, thank you. It was beautiful. So this is the closing that never ends. Because I have more messages. So I have a message here. Sending love from Belfast, Martin, Joan, Ava, and Albie. We have loved hearing the stories about Peter. I have lovely memories from summers in England. I remember Peter as a man who couldn't break a rule, but had great time for me. I love the ties and the stories from abroad. I hope he is at peace now. Then from Celia K. Hello from Stockton. So glad to be able to join you today. My strongest memory of Peter is him helping me with homework, but he always refused to do it for me. And then I've just received 2 messages on WhatsApp as well. I'm just going to read it as it is. This is from Bex in England. She says, for a short time when I attended university with Marie-Laure, the Rigg family were kind enough to let me live with them for several months. During that time, I got to know all of them better, including Peter. It was a short amount of time I spent with him, but he was always welcoming, kind, and we always enjoyed talking about the great British railway journeys on TV. The fact he made me feel so at home when I'd barely met him was a testament to his kindness. I'd like to send my heartfelt condolences to all the family and all my love and best wishes during this tough time, particularly to Attractor and Mel. All my love, we are thinking of you back here in freezing Britain. Bex. Bex, I'll just let you know, I'm busy shivering here, it's so cold as well. Okay, everybody, thank you very much. I think that is just about it. So thanks once again. And for those who are staying for lunch, I'm sure we'll have a toast to Peter a little bit later on. Thanks again.
Thanks so much for coming down. Thank you. Sure. Are you guys dashing now? That's fine. I've got something to give to Non-Jabula and Sandeka. So maybe I can just ask them to give them something. Yeah. And then thank you.
Emil, can I just say goodbye? Yes. That was such a big But you got to sit your mom. That's know the real people. It's just such a blessing to see the goodness of his life. So, thank you very much for including us. Appreciate it. Okay. Okie dokes. She's just busy, yeah.
We wanted to just say thank you so much
Sure.
for looking after Dad.
That's very kind. Thank you so much. And thank you for being such a wonderful family. It's difficult to have people in very different space.
Yeah. Can we maybe just take a photo? Yeah, sure, Mum. Okay, sure, we will take it, Mum.
That's a good idea.
Tell me if I'm going to leave your head on, please. This way.
Was to say Merry Christmas, but we didn't get to Christmas, so that was in the cupboard ready for Christmas for you and your family. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas. Sorry, I said these were in the cupboard ready to say at Christmas time. Oh, well, no, you can go back and show them.